the rising polarization of worldviews. We just can't get along, can we? It's amazing what's going on now. This is for the U.S., for our U.S. audience. This is a 10-year surveys of the differences between Democrats and Republicans, where they stand on issues. In 1994, the median Democrat, the median Republican were pretty close, and there was a lot of crossover in their ideas. They were able to get along. They passed policy together. They lived well together. In 2004, we see this divide starting. In 2014, which is 7 years ago, this is being torn apart. I do not have a graph for today, but it's much worse than it is even in this thing. We are being split apart. And part of the way that this is happening, the difference is the internet. It is changing the way we relate to the world and to one another in a rapid way, and it is dividing us. And here are some of the 4 ways in which it is working upon us. 1, it's giving us false information. Fake news floods the population with lies and half-truths. And this comes from both sides of the aisle. You're going to get it from MSNBC and CNN. You're also going to get it from Fox News. Neither one can be trusted. It's hard these days to find a trusted news source because it is all biased. It is all geared to make money by getting more clicks, more hits, more ratings. That's what's driving it. And they're producing content that they know will keep people glued to the screen to watch so they can get more ratings, sell more commercials. So what they're giving you in the news is not accurate. It is not true. It is not unbiased. It is extremely biased. It used to be that you had regular news broadcasts, which was meant to be unbiased, and then you had opinion, but they would state its opinion. Today, it's just opinion, and most of the time, it is not even balanced. It is overtly deceptive. And one of the things that they're doing is fear-mongering. They are trying to scare people into higher ratings and harsher opinions. This is intentional, it is strategic, and it is happening right now. They are constantly trying to cause us to be afraid. The way the human mind is designed is there is this part of our brain called the amygdala, which produces the fight or flight syndrome. It is all information from your vision, from your ears, your smell even, all of that goes through the amygdala. And if something scares you, that part of your brain responds with fight or flight. And then if there's nothing to scare you, the information goes past the amygdala into the other parts of your brain. So the amygdala is kind of like this filter to set you up for emergencies. Now, fear is what stimulates the amygdala. And when your amygdala is stimulated, you give your attention immediately to what's before you. This is by design, so that if you're walking through the grass and you step on a venomous snake, boom, you have immediate shot of adrenaline, you are alert and awake, and you are able to move quickly. That's why God gave us the amygdala. Now, cable news and television news, they have realized that if they keep your amygdala stimulated with their information, you will pay attention, you will not change the channel, you will stick there and watch the news. And they can sell products through commercials. And so what they've done is they have tailored all of news to be focused to cause you to be afraid. They're constantly looking for reasons for you to be afraid. And that's what's keeping us glued to our TVs and giving them advertising revenue. So that's their strategy. In order for that to work, they need to have a bad guy. They have to have a villain. So they are constantly looking for a villain to put before you that is an existential threat. Maybe you've heard that language. An existential threat right now, so that we're paying attention and we're not changing the channel. Now, it once was that Russia, the Soviet Union was that existential threat. And the media used the threat of the Soviet Union to cause us to pay attention to the news. But then when that resolved, and that was the Cold War ended, then they needed a new enemy, a new villain. So Muslim extremists, terrorists became our villain. But then that kind of got taken care of, and that's been resolved pretty much, and they're no longer an existential threat. So now the news media is turning us against one another on purpose. They're causing us to hate and distrust our neighbors. So now the existential threat lives next door or across the street. This is fear-mongering. Now fear, the problem with the amygdala is there's no rational thought there. Fear is not a rational thing. Let me give you an example. When you go swimming out in the ocean and you're out there where you can't stand up, you're deep water, what are you thinking about? Now if you're like most of us, you're thinking about sharks. We've been trained to think that there is this threat, this existential threat under the waters that could rise up and just gobble you up in one bite. And that causes fear. And that's what our mind is thinking about. Now the truth is, a shark attack is 1 in 3,744,730 odds. Those are the odds. You know you are 3 times more likely to be struck by lightning than attacked by a shark. But when you're out in the water, you're not thinking of a strike from above, you're thinking about a strike from below. Why? Because the numbers don't matter. The odds don't matter. Fear is not rational. It's a fight or flight thing. And so fear-mongering is causing all of us to be afraid all the time. And you know what else comes from the amygdala? Hate. Hate is being brewed by the corporate media to cause us to be divided. And that's intentional. It's a market strategy. We are also being thrust into, this is the third one, the echo chamber, where we are cementing an opinion with constant reinforcement. Now, an echo chamber is sometimes something we choose to do. So we associate with people who think like us. Their worldview perspective is the same as us. We like to hang around them because they make us feel comfortable. They make us feel like we're a part of the group. And so we naturally incline to have social circles that all tend to agree with us about a worldview. And we don't have relationship very often with people who have a different worldview, who see the world differently than us. But that is not just our choice. Now we're being forced into echo chambers. Google and its search engines, Facebook and its algorithms, they are designed to make you see things in your searches that you will want to look at. So what they're doing is feeding you in your feeds and in your searches content that they know you'll click on, because that's how they generate ad revenue. So they are actually feeding your worldview with more of the same, and you're being separated rapidly from any kind of perspective different than your own. This is happening. We're all in an echo chamber. And so what happens is you begin to think, everyone I know and respect in the world thinks like this. So if you think differently than this, that's crazy. In fact, I will question your motives, because the good people I know think this way. You must have wrong motives. You must be evil. And so we're being forced into a place where we hate each other even more. And then we're being radicalized. All of this is making each of us a shallow evangelist of a new worldview, of another worldview. Now, radicalization is a relatively new but well-studied concept in sociology, because, you know, first radicals were thought of like jihadists. Terrorists were thought of, they were radicalized. And so we studied what caused this radicalization, and it's interesting to find there are different ways of storing information that you learn. The way you learn, You have two kinds of memory. You have autobiographical memory, which is from your experience. You also have semantic memory, which is content that you have heard void of experience. Now, semantic memory is what you use when you're in school and you have a test coming up and you gather a whole lot of information in your short-term memory, take the test, and then you flush all that information. That's all semantic information. It's void of experience. It's void of relationships and context. It is just content. Now, the internet provides information that just goes into the semantic memory. It's all just constant information, void of context, void of relationship. The problem with that kind of memory is you could get highly committed to the idea, but it does not at all access things like empathy or compassion. All of empathy and compassion, relating to other people, that's all part of the autobiographical memory. But the way you've been groomed to think, the way you've been learning, it's all been semantic memory. It's all been content, void of experience, void of relationships, and it fuels things that are not peaceable or kind or empathetic or compassionate. And so it causes us to be highly committed to a point of view that we've just inherited from other people's thinking. And it radicalizes us. And now we are all being radicalized by the internet.